New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. New Thought Media Network proudly presents the Science of Mind Saturday Conversations. Learn more about the Science of Mind philosophy, faith, and way of life. Join our team of experts for a weekly deep dive discussion. Come study the science of mind, chapter by chapter, and resources from the Science of Mind archives. Plan to join us every Saturday, 9 a.m. Mountain Time, only on the New Thought Media Network.
Well, absolutely. Well, good morning to most of you. It's 11 o'clock on the East Coast. I am your substitute teacher today, the Reverend Michael Mangus, and I'd like to welcome everyone to our Saturday Science of Mind and Spirit conversation. And I'm so glad to see everyone today. And we'll be talking about, in just a few moments, we'll be talking about Chapter 16 in the Science of Mind textbook. Chapter 16, talking about the principles of successful living. So if you do have a copy of the Science of Mind textbook written by Ernest Holmes, please get that out. And we will learn together today. And I'd like to welcome here Roy. Hey, Roy, how you doing? We're bracing for severe tornado weather this afternoon. Well, we know that the light of God surrounds you, that the love of God enfolds you, that the power of God protects you, that the presence of God watches over you, that wherever you are, God is and all is well. That's how to metaphysically handle interesting weather warnings. So, hello, Roy. Thank you for being with us today. Hi, Linda. How are you? I usually see Linda at Anton Conference every year. Good to see you today. Yeah, I'm substitute teaching today, Linda. So you have to take attendance and make sure everyone behaves. So it is a great privilege and pleasure to be able to present this philosophy that has made a huge difference in my life, so much so that I have dedicated my life to not only teaching it, but also to getting these principles out into the world. So let's turn now to Chapter 16, which starts at page 266 of the definitive edition of the Science of Mind textbook, written in 1938. It is the rewrite of an earlier edition. And so just to kind of give some context here. So Dr. Holmes, that is the title that's given to Ernest Holmes, who had and was given many honorary degrees. So out of reverence that most of us go ahead and refer to him as Dr. Holmes. So Dr. Holmes, when he was writing the textbook, up to this point, he had been talking about general principles. He had gone through a whole section of bodily healing So now we're in the portion of the text where Ernest Holmes starts to talk about how to apply this in our daily lives. There's 3 chapters. The principles of successful living, which we'll talk about here in a few moments. Also mental equivalence, which we'll touch on a little bit, but not much. And also the law of attraction. Now, before I begin here, I'd like to give a disclaimer. On YouTube, on social media, prosperity teaching, especially by any minister, has been brought under suspect. Again, that we see the prosperity preachers and their very lavish homes and jets and all that. Prosperity principles, though, when I teach them, it's meant to prosper you first. If it doesn't, then it's not a principle. So these principles that are going to be taught not only today, but over the next couple of weeks, these prosperity principles will prosper you. They've prospered me. They've prospered others. And again, Ernest Holmes, before he wrote The Science of Mind text, he worked with thousands of individuals, both speaking and also both in private practice. So the prosperity principles that we are going to teach today are active right here, right now. And it's meant to prosper you first. Yes, giving is an important part of prosperity principles. We won't get into that today, but it's only a small portion. So I don't want to digress any more than that. But just to know that, again, that you were made to prosper, that you were made to be blessed, that the Spirit of God as you, in you, and through you is meant to succeed. Okay? And before I begin in the text again, if you'd like to comment this morning, that would be great. Or if you have any questions, that would be wonderful too. We'll start on page 266. It says, lessons on prosperity and mental control of conditions are sometimes dangerous because of the misunderstanding of this subject. Science of mind is not a get-rich-quick scheme. Neither does it promote or promise something for nothing. It does, however, promise that the one who will comply with its teaching, that he or she shall be able to bring greater possibilities and happier conditions into their experience. We do not teach, second paragraph, that you can get what you want. If we could get all that we want, it might be disastrous, huh? Aren't you glad that there's some things that you wanted that just didn't happen? Absolutely. Ernest Holmes said that, for it is certain that most of us would want things that would interfere with someone else's well-being, or we wouldn't want those. While we could not expect to demonstrate that which is contrary to the nature of our own existence, we not only believe, but we know that it is entirely possible through mental treatment, through right thought and belief, to greatly influence our environment, its reaction to us, the reaction to situations that we meet, and the conditions that we contact. There is such a thing as demonstrating a control of conditions. And we shall be able to prove this in such a degree as we are successful in looking away from the conditions which now exist while accepting better ones. Consequently, going to the second paragraph on page 267, this science does not promise something for nothing. However, it says that if we comply with the law complies with us. No man can demonstrate peace and cling to unhappiness. He can demonstrate resignation and call it peace, but it will not be peace. No man can jump into the water and remain dry. This is contrary to the law and reason. Now, the next sentence is in all caps. So as I teach my students here in Akron, is that any time that Ernest Holmes italicizes something, or he goes ahead and he puts it in caps, pay attention. Do I have your attention? Good, because it says that no person whose entire time is spent in the contemplation of limitation can demonstrate freedom from such limitation. The law itself must be willing to give, because in so giving, life is self-expressed. Okay. So if you have studied with us up to this point, you have a pretty good understanding of God as spirit and also God as law. Now, we are centers of God consciousness, of God awareness. Do you believe that today? That one fact could change your life today, is that you are spirit expressing as you, and that your thought is creative. God is spirit or love, but God is also the impersonal law. If we constantly give to the law, if we constantly are thinking what we're experiencing, if we feel that it's negative, we will continually get that. However, and this is the good news today, or the gospel, is that can change when we change our position, or again, our consciousness in the law. And how we do that is by aligning our thinking with the divine as us. Align it with the truth about us, capital T. As I go on here, page 267, as you think into this universal mind, you set a law in motion which is creative and which contains within itself a limitless possibility. Now, this is important. This is on 267.4. 267.4. The law through which man operates is infinite, but man appears to be finite. That is, he has not yet evolved into a complete understanding of himself. Now get this next sentence. He says, he is unfolding from a limitless potential, again, around us and through us is limitless potential. And again, because we are spirit, we have access to it. However, you can only bring that into experience, only that which you can conceive. There is no limit to the law, but there appears to be a limit to man's understanding of it. And as his understanding unfolds, your possibilities of attainment will increase. So what Dr. Holmes is saying is this. The reason that we don't experience, again, all the possibilities out there is because that, again, that our view or our consciousness is limited. by our own thinking. So as we align our consciousness with the one presence and one power, what happens is this, that we tap into the limitless potential, and that our thinking is guided. It becomes God thinking. So this isn't the ego limited thinking. This is the God thinking in and through and as us. On the bottom of 267, again, this is another sentence that is in all caps. Man must become more if he wishes to draw a greater good into their life. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to add anything, but you have to become more in your thought. You have to put new mental equivalents, which is the next chapter. You have to put new mental equivalents into the law. And one of the best ways of doing that, I have found, is by going ahead and to align my thinking with the divine and have that thought in my life. Align the thinking with the divine. On 268, again, the first paragraph, it says, we provide the mold for the creative law. And unless the mold that we provide is increased, substance cannot increase in our experience, for mental science does not promise anything that will do away with the necessity of complying with the law. Next paragraph, he says, every man and woman must pay the price for that which he receives, and that price is paid in mental and spiritual coin. All right, so for your life to change, for your finances to change, for your health to change, and this is not about blame. This is about healing. This is about being who you are. On some level, there is a mental equivalent. And the good news is this, it can change. And who changes it? You do. You do. You have to provide a bigger container. So if I'm only going to the universe with a container like this, that is what I'm going to get. So what Dr. Holmes is encouraging all of us to do here is to get a bigger container. You like that? Get a bigger container on which to get your good. Now, how do you do that? Ernest Holmes also talks about the whole idea of gradually, receiving more into our lives. So I suggest that, let's just take finances. Take whatever and the place that you're at and write down a number. Okay? Now, double that number. And it can be monthly or yearly income. And start saying, I give thanks that I now have an income of X amount of dollars. Now, you can go 50% if you want. But see, that's how you build a mental equivalent, is by creating a new container that is larger so that you can receive your good. All right? Now, this is the bottom of 268. It says, but this teaching should not be confused with the idea that we can show people how to get what they want. Regardless, true prayer must be thy will be done. Now, on page 269, Holmes goes into an explanation of God's will. Let's understand that God's will is always good, God's will is always good, and you can get more of an explanation on 269. Now, on the second paragraph on 269, it says, a mental avenue must be provided through which the law may operate as a law of liberty if we are to be free. This does not mean that we have to please the law, for it is impersonal and neither knows nor cares who uses it, nor for what purpose, because it is impersonal. It is compelled by its very nature to return to the thinker exactly what they think into it. The law of mental equivalence must not be overlooked. So, whatsoever a man soweth, that shall they reap. Now, if you want your life to change, if you want your life to get better or be better, we have to change the mental equivalence. And again, as I said before, how we change the mental equivalence is by aligning our thought with God thought. So let's say that we're having a challenge, let's say health challenge. So what is the divine thought about that? The divine thought is that we were made in the image and likeness of God. Within us, there is a perfect pattern. So what we do then, if we're practicing scientifically, is we change the mental pattern to wholeness, to align ourselves with the wholeness that we are, and that we use denials to go ahead and to say, this thing called sickness, dis-ease is just a thought, and a thought can be changed. I now release that thought and I affirm my health. I affirm my wellness. I affirm my aliveness. All right. Let's see. We have a few comments up here. Let's see what's going on here. All right. Linda says, she said, prosperity is so much bigger than dollars. Absolutely. Learn to see prosperity in all experiences. It's eye-opening. Absolutely. And again, that prosperity teaching, again, or prosperity gospels, they call it, that the evangelicals talk about, this isn't it. This is about having successful, loving lives. This is about living from our divine nature, on who you are. And again, it's about teaching spiritual principles. Of course, Wayne Baldwin is here. In what way can I be a better religious scientist? Good question, Wayne. That is the practice. To practice. How do you practice? Every day, read something from the Science of Mind textbook. Every day, pick out a couple of spiritual mind treatments from the textbook that also applies to your life, and start saying them out loud. That's how you change your life. It again is you are a creative center of God consciousness. You are spirit expressing as you, whether you like it or not. So, because you are a creative center of God consciousness, of God awareness, you speak your word, either silently or out loud, into this great law of life, which is impersonal. It doesn't care what thought is planted in it. It's a lot like the soil. It doesn't care what thought is planted in it. It can be a carrot seed or it can be a weed seed. So what the Science of Mind teaches is this: if we're experiencing more weeds than carrots, is that we start focusing on the carrots. We uproot the thought of weeds because it's just a thought. And again, as Louise Hay says, a thought can be changed. And Louise Hay was a trained science of mind minister. All right. On 269, paragraph 3, it says, every act in the life of the individual is so that the individual may express themselves. So whether it's positive or whether it's not as life-giving, again, it's you trying to be creative. It's you trying to express that creativity. We realize, however, that to attempt this self-expression at the expense of society or any other individual is to defeat the very purpose for which freedom exists. Now, the criteria now people have often said, well, how do I know if this desire that I want, how do I know that it is in the will of God or good? The will of God is always good. This is found on 270, the second paragraph. It says, the criterion for any man or woman as to what is right or wrong for him is not to be found in some other man's judgment. The criteria is this. This is really important. Does the thing I wish to express more life, more happiness, more peace to myself, and at the same time harms no other person? If it does, it is right. If it is not selfish, but if it's done at the expense of anyone, then in such a degree, we are making a wrong use of the law. Now, again, what I suggest to Science of Mind students is this. If you are in confusion about this, well, then maybe, again, just affirm that you know what to do and also get some feedback from a Science of Mind practitioner or your minister. And the reason being is this, is that we may also think that it's selfish, that our desire is either it's too good to be true. That's another excuse here. So if it's good for you, it also should be good for other people. And again, to bring out their divinity and their light. So on 270, the fourth paragraph, it says, man does not exist for the purpose of making an impression upon his environment. He does exist, though, to express themselves in and through their environment. You're here to be creative in your environment. Isn't that absolutely wonderful? Let's skip over now to 271. I don't see any other comments, but if you have a question or comment, please let us know here. 271, the possibilities of the law are infinite, and our possibilities of using it are limitless. On 271, paragraph 3, it says, we can demonstrate at our level of our ability to know. Beyond this, we cannot go, but we will constantly expand and increase in knowledge and understanding, and therefore continually growing in our ability to make use of the law. In time, we shall be made free through it. The next paragraph, the way to work is to begin right where we are, right where you are at. The reason our lives don't change is because we don't accept the present moment. So wherever that you're at in the world, that's where you're at. Accept that in the moment. This is where I'm at. This is where I'm at right now. The way to work, though, is again to begin right where we are. And through constantly applying ourselves to the truth, again, we shall gradually increase in wisdom and understanding, for in this way alone will good results be obtained. What are you experiencing now? What is a spiritual truth about you? And then to do what Ernest Holmes says in the next paragraph on 271, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The bottom sentence says, the student, that's you and I, the student should take time every day. Do you hear me? The student should take time every day to see their life as they wish it to be, to make a mental picture of their ideal. They should then pass this picture over into the law and then go about their business with a calm assurance that on the inner side of life, something is taking place. There should not be any sense of hurry or worry about this, just a calm, peaceful sense of reality. Let the law work through and express itself in the experience. There should be no idea of compulsion. We're trying to force this. This is not about forcing here. We do not have to make the law work, which is nice. It is its nature to work. In gladness, then, we should make known our desires, and in confidence, we should wait upon the perfect law to manifest through it. Next paragraph, it says, our part, though, your part, my part, is to be ready and willing to be guided into truth and liberty. If, in the making of our demonstration, it becomes necessary to change our mode of living, then the law will point the way and we will follow. So if you want your life to change daily, daily, spend some time. Become the picture of the life that you want to live. If I suggest to my students is they go ahead and they write that down as if they're already experiencing it. I give great thanks for my wonderful life, my wonderful income, my wonderful bank account. I give great thanks for the news that my doctor just told me, which was that I am cancer-free, that I am free from this dis-ease. I give great thanks for that. And again, spend time in the solution every single day. Think quantumly. Again, we are spirit. We are creative. We are one with that creative power. And there is the impersonal law, the soil of the universe. My question to you today is, what are you planting? Now, some individuals, and again, on our network, because I see the comments of several shows, they'll say, well, I've tried it and it didn't work. I get that. So what I share with them when I have the opportunity, and if they want to hear it, is what you have received as feedback. It's not failure. It's only failure if you see it as failure. So keep thinking quantumly. Keep spending time each and every day being in that picture. This isn't about forcing or concentrating hard. This is about, again, trusting the great law of life, which is impersonal, to take care of you. It's just that we have to think, again, quantumly, into it. We are surrounded by and immersed in this sea of possibility. So, because we are surrounded by, we can choose out of that possibility what to receive. So for those of you, again, who have struggled with something, first of all, quit struggling. I encourage you to do that. Get thyself to a practitioner or to your minister at your center. Get some perspective on it. And also know this, that what we're doing is we're not trying to convince the law. We're trying to open within ourselves the possibility of things changing, the possibility of that happening. So I have to convince me, okay? And so how I do that is daily. Now, they'll say, well, it hasn't shown up yet. Keep doing it. In the book of Matthew, it says, ask and it shall be given, seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall be open. Now, what the Bible translators have found out in the past 50 years is that the Greek tense of those words are plural. So it's not just ask once, it's keep asking. It's keep seeking, keep finding. Keep on until you receive your demonstration. And again, if you feel blocked in any way or that you are not manifesting what you want, get thy rear to a practitioner or to a minister. And again, just be real honest and allow yourself again to be free. All right? At the bottom of 272, boy, time goes quick here. Insofar as we are going to make this thing work, it's because we contact universal laws which run through every age and race and which answers every person. So you don't have to be a Christian to make this work. I remember what Mile High Minister Josh Reeves said at a conference. He said he had to explain the science of mind to the Christian College Dean, which is right next to Mile High Center. And so he says, science of mind is Christian influence, Christian based, which is true. And you don't have to be a Christian to use its principles because they're universal. It doesn't matter if you're a Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, or even an atheist. If you just know, again, that the thought that you have is creative and start taking responsibility for your thought, what happens is your world changes. So God is forever doing new things. This is on 273. God is forever doing new things, and when we conceive of new ideas, it is an act of the divine projecting itself into creation. So that idea that you have, that idea for a new invention, the idea that you have for a painting, the idea that you have for a book, that again, that's God expressing as you. God expresses itself in and through and as its creation. It expresses in and through you, and that's coming through you again to bring about the kingdom here on this plane. 274, it says, treatment is not for the purpose of making things happen. Can we understand that? It is to provide within ourselves an avenue through which they may happen. The moment that we think that we have to compel something, The moment that we are exercising a willpower, which is now up against a proposition that it can't possibly meet, treatment is not mental coercion. It's not willpower, it's not concentration. We shall never arrive at a correct method of spiritual treatment merely by learning how to concentrate for any length of time on a particular object. All right? That is not what we are striving to arrive at. Treatment is not something that one does to another. It's always done the thing that one does to themselves. Can we understand that? We're not convincing God. We're not convincing the law. We're convincing ourselves. So this is a process of receiving, of denying and saying, yes, the current condition, that's the fact, but it's not the truth. I shake my head a lot when I do treatment. That's not the truth. The truth is this, and again, it's a revealing process, revealing what's already there. Whatever method enables them to do it is a good method, a good way. Treatment is an action in thought alone. It opens up the avenues of thought, expands consciousness, and lets reality through. Now, we're about at the end of our time here. 274 says this. Ernest Holmes wrote that Troward says that we enter the absolute in such a degree that we withdraw from the relative, and that when we withdraw from the relative in such a degree, we enter the absolute. What he meant was this is at the bottom of 274, in such a degree as the answer and the result is contingent upon any circumstance, any existing known fact, no matter how apparent. The treatment is not in the absolute. It is in the relative and necessarily conditioned by the contingent, which is held in the mind. So if we want our lives to change here, if we want our lives to be different, we must, again, understand this presence and power, get a really good sense that you are one with infinite spirit. Spirit is one with you. You are the expression of God as you. Get that in your body, in your mind. Spend more time on recognition and unification than you do on realization, because when you recognize the one life, the one power in you, as you, and through you, again, when you speak your word, you know that you know that you know. So practice the presence of God in and through and as you. Those are the first two steps of spiritual mind treatment. And then, again, speak your word with authority, knowing that the great law of life is around you, in you, and through you, and will respond accordingly. A couple more ideas here. And again, you can read this for yourself. Again, we're talking from chapter 16, The Principles of Successful Living. And again, we fail to recognize with Browning that all is love, yet all is law. We must differentiate between the divine presence as universal spirit and also a thing to be communed with. That's what I was talking about practicing the presence, and the universal law, which is simply a blind force. Love and law. Love and law. The law is a blind force. Unless we misuse it, we should be very careful to follow a constructive course. The law is absolute, and we should trust its impersonal action implicity. It can do anything for us that we can conceive of it doing. It is a law of freedom to all who believe and obey it. Once again, if you want your life to change, you have to create a new mental equivalent. If you want your income to change, your health to change, your relationships to change, again, notice what's going on in your life. Those are the facts. Know that the reason that they're there is because on some level that there is a mental pattern. So that's why we use spiritual mind treatment, is to dissolve that pattern within us so that we can receive again our good. So let's say I was treating for a relationship and for an individual who had been in, let's just say, interesting relationships in the past. I would ask them, what do you want instead? And that's how we would go about the treatment, is understanding that, again, that these are being brought up. The reason that you're attracting the kind of person that you're attracting is because on some level that you're holding a mental pattern or a mental equivalent to attract that kind of person into your life. And again, I am not blaming anyone. I'm just saying that, the truth shall set you free here. So by understanding that I no longer want to experience that, this is what I want to experience, is a relationship of love, something that, again, that I feel cherished and loved, and I feel safe and protected. All right? Okay. But again, it's really important, again, to understand, again, the difference between spirit and the law. Yes, there is only one God, but again, that in the beginning was the what? Was the Word. And again, what did life speak? It's spoken to itself, which is the law, which is the impersonal law to create light. In the beginning was the Word. God said, let there be light. And that's what I'm sharing with you today, is let there be light in your life. So I'll conclude here. A good demonstration is made when the truth, gathering its own power, lifts one out of their environment. And until that time comes, they should stay where they are at in order that they may know when they have made a demonstration. It is not a good demonstration if we give our treatments, if we have to struggle just as before. Principle is absolute, which means anybody can use this. Anybody can use this. And this means you, this means me. And insofar as any individual can actually induce within consciousness upon principle a definite, concrete acceptance of their desire, it will manifest even though every thought on earth has to change to compel it. If it were a bit of information that was needed for the demonstration that only one person on earth knew, that person was in the center of Africa, the information would be produced. How wonderful. It's been wonderful, again, substituting today. And again, please read chapter 16 for yourself. And as I am reminded, is that if you're not getting it by reading it, say it out loud. It says in the Bible, in the New Testament, faith comes by hearing. So sometimes it's just best to read this out loud. And that's a lot of times, that's why I read the text out loud, is to add emphasis and to add life to it. Ernest Holmes said it in one context, but again, that we bring new life to it when we read it again. And sometimes when we read it out loud and we get new understanding about this. All right. Boy, it's been a real joy being with you today. Next week, our presenter will be talking about mental equivalence. Mental equivalence. On behalf of all of us here at your New Thought Media Network, I'm Reverend Michael. It was a real honor being with you today. And join us again next week for a whole lot more. And on behalf of all of us, have a great weekend, and we'll see you here next week.
Please help us say thank you to all of our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Center for Spiritual Living United Life, Sunshine Cathedral, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Universal Joy Center, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Home Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. On behalf of New Thought Media Network, thank you, and please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, come be you.
Well, before I go, I wanted to answer this question by Ray. Says, why does God want us to keep asking? Isn't once enough? Okay. The asking is done for us. The reason that we keep on asking, again, is to imprint upon us what we want in life. God's willing to give it to us. And again, that in theory, that spiritual mind treatment needs to be done only once. And I've had demonstration with that. I've had just immediate demonstration. However, that the reason that we keep on asking, we keep on seeking, we keep on finding is because that it's not God's will, it's us, again, convincing ourselves of the truth. So that's why we keep on. We don't give up. We keep on. We keep doing the prayer daily. We keep knowing the truth daily. We get other people of like mind to know the truth for us. So it's not God doing it. Again, that what was being taught in Matthew is a spiritual principle. Again, we convince ourselves the reason that we do not experience sometimes good in our lives is because, again, that we give up. Keep on every day, as Ernest Holmes said in that chapter, to every single day, create a time where, again, that you experienced your life as you want it to be. I hope that that helps, Ray. And if not, get a hold of me. Pastor Michael Mangus at gmail.com. All right, enough of me. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you here sometime next